Good evening. I want to welcome all of Delaware County Commissioners as well as all of the other staff to our meeting. I guess we haven't had a meeting in 2.5 years, so it is due time. So I will have roll call done for City Council, please.
Mr. Jones, Mrs. Keller, Mr. Browning,
Here.
Mr. Rohr,
Here.
Mr. Hellinger,
Here.
Vice Mayor Schaefer,
Here.
Mayor Riggle.
Here. Do you have a motion to excuse?
Motion to excuse Collins, Jones, and Teller.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Hellinger. Roll call, please.
Mr. Browning,
Yes.
Mr. Rohr,
Yes.
Hellinger,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer,
Yes.
Mayor Riggle.
Yes. Motion carries. Do roll call?
Sure. I'd just like to we appreciate being here tonight on the March 29th. Excuse me, I'm looking at the old one here. The February 15th, thank you. And we're pleased to be here, and we're looking forward to this. And I'd like to just introduce the people from, we start by left here. Jeff Benton, Commissioner, our Vice President, Commissioner Lewis, our County Administrator, Mike Romer, and Bob Lim from Economic Development will be here and speak as well. And our clerks are both here tonight, although they won't both be in action, but they want to come, and Sarah DeNova and Jen Walrigan. And I see that we have our county auditor in the back of the room there, George Keitza. And I think that covered everybody that representing the county. So with that, we're pleased to be part of this meeting tonight. And I just have a comment, if I may.
Absolutely.
We did this 2.5 years ago, and I was talking about Tom Home before the meeting started. And these were our topics 2.5 years ago. they were Sawmill Parkway. We can mark that one off.
Yes.
The courthouse. We can mark that one off. Sewer master plan, which Mike Comer took us to the end zone on that a few months ago. And economic development and the city updates were sewer collection, master plan, the transportation plan update, and the discussion items were EMS agreement and solid waste transfer. So I thought it was kind of interesting to look back. So a lot of good came out of that.
That's right.
But we're excited to be here. I don't know if the other commissioners have any comments or not at this point.
No. Okay, so EMS.
Yeah, that is an
Brief.
issue that keeps coming up. It was kind of sidelined for a while. This is really the agreement we have with the county to provide reimbursement to the city based upon runs, non-transport and transport runs in the city. And we had the agreement we're currently operating under expired in the end of 2008. And we had, when Administrator Hansley was with the county, we had talked about changing from a flat run rate, to a flat amount, flat lump sum amount based upon the number of runs. And we had some discussions about that. Then the Sawmill Parkway negotiations began. We kind of sidelined it. And then there was the effort of the coalition to try to come up with a global solution. And that didn't materialize. So we're just asking tonight for some direction as to who we would initiate those that negotiation with from the county's team, and just to kind of get the issue back and find out what the county is thinking. But we do think it makes sense to just take a look at the agreement we have with the county. It's similar to the one they have with Liberty Township, and well, we still think there's merit to the global solution. And I know there was a response. Obviously, Commissioner Benton had a proposal as well. We do think that the immediate issue is really the agreement that we negotiated back in the early 2000s that we're still operating under. And just taking a look at that and looking at updating it, I guess, and finding out who from the county we should be speaking to about that.
I would think that would be our administrator, our county administrator, and Cy. as far as next steps on discussing that.
And of course, Chief Schuler, the chief ought to be involved as well, so. I'm certain he'd be involved in your side of the negotiations discussion as well, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're the kind of subject matter experts, but there's other, I think that's important, but really I just wanted to find out.
Yeah, sure.
With the transition, who on the county's team, we could at least sit down with and start those,
Okay.
restart
Yeah.
that conversation.
Sure. Yeah, I understand. It's been a long time.
I think that's the direction needs to travel. We could have Mike coordinate setting up a meeting with you. Maybe you two kind of coordinate something, and we'll see where it goes. And I know there was some agreements back and forth over the last couple of years. County made a proposal, you guys responded to it, and then, like you said, Sawmill may have entered into it, and nothing came of that.
So I mean, they're still just trying to, as I said, kind of restart some of those conversations that we had before that were going pretty well, but then things got put aside. So, that's really why it's on the agenda tonight, to get some direction from the commissioners.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to eliminate all the minutia and the angling over which runs count, which ones don't. Come up with some more standard formula because I know we both waste a lot of time.
Right.
In the details.
Yeah, and that's really what we had gotten out there, and that's got to be updated. But that was really the approach we wanted to take, Commissioner, was to avoid the issues you have over that run versus this run. So that'd be helpful.
But I will say it's a two-way street. Both sides have to be willing to look at that and evaluate that. So, but I think what the commissioners need is a reasoned presentation to the commissioners that we can look at as you guys ultimately have to do the same. So
Yeah.
Okay. And Mike will do an excellent job of coordinating our side of that.
Great. Thank you. That's helpful.
Item 3 on the agenda is the county funding for the Point Project. We had sent a letter last week, and I think you have a meeting set up with.
Yes, County Engineer Bauserman had reached out to us together with Administrator Fromer about a meeting next week, just to learn a little more about the details of what our letter had recommended. So,
But when I got the email with my name misspelled, I might add. There's a
third negotiation.
I forwarded that on to Chris, and they very quickly, I think, got a meeting set up. So
Yeah.
they were proactive.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
And just, it's not Elaine, it's Tom's, not ours. She's all like, it's not me.
So,
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
all right.
Picture next to you, I promise.
I didn't say that legit.
I know you did. I see the smile.
But I don't know if any.
So did you say there is a meeting?
It's I think next Tuesday at 10 o'clock or Wednesday at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, it's next week, Tuesday or Wednesday at the county offices to talk about the recent proposal.
And obviously Chris Bosman is county engineer. The commissioners obviously will put a great deal of weight in his recommendation, as you would expect. So this is an important meeting to get Mike and Chris together with your representatives to have that conversation.
Well, that's helpful.
Did you have any questions from the letter at all, or any, other than your name? Any concerns or anything?
No, I think
I
it's,
think the amount
Yeah.
jumped up. The amount that you asked for was higher than, we expected.
Can I ask what you
We had
expected?
talked about $1 million, $1.5 million, and then the request was 3.2. So yeah, we'd like to understand why.
You can always work your way down, you can't go up. It's my theory. I'm just kidding.
but you went down, it went up. So, anyway, that's a conversation that is going to start next week, and I think Have you guys had conversations with Chris previously, or not really? Or?
Just the meetings we had with Commissioner Benton back in the fall, and with Chris, Bill and I, Bill Farino, our Public Works Director, city engineer, met with Chris, and then we subsequently, the mayor and I met with Commissioner Benton as a follow-up to the August 1st letter. The August 1st letter really wanted to start the conversation, and we had committed to both meetings that we would follow up with a proposal, and that's what we did on Friday, knowing that we wanted to get to that next step. But we're hoping we can work on an acceptable agreement that puts the county in a position to be able to participate in a way that makes sense financially and from a policy standpoint.
And that's a big concern, the policy aspect of it, because if you saw the letter, I think it was in the Dispatch, the Gazette, where one of the other government entities implied, we're watching to see how the county handles. So, but the point of that is not to, it's just to make it is a difficult thing for the county to deal with, because others will be looking at how we handle this, because there'll be some expectations. So, but that's the purpose of getting together and having that conversation.
Another point to consider is the county has some really nice revenue streams to fund road projects, transportation projects, but we have a lot of transportation projects on the drawing board. I went and looked at Chris's budget from last fall. He's got $191 million of planned transportation projects in the next 5 years, and he's got $160 million of funding. So we're already underfunded. Now he's running his reserves down to cover that $30 million gap, but you can only do that so far. So anyway, again, we got a whole bunch of things going on as you want, and we're already underfunded. So
I just think it's important to see this as a somewhat of a regional project. We're getting ready to talk about development along 36 and 37. Sure. The point is, a big issue with that transportation corridor. So we hope that.
Oh yeah, I don't think there's anybody would say we don't think it's an important project, because it is. I think we all agree it really is important.
And on the Morpsey list, which Commissioner Benton was involved in, that was one of the ones listed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
as a priority.
That was one of the top 5, I think. Yeah. So clearly, it's an important project, and we want to do, whatever we can. In fact, one of the topics we want to talk about, in fact, is the next one of the Transportation Improvement District. We think there may be some ways, to use that tool to help with it. So anyway.
I had a gentleman stop me in the store the other day and said, well, just don't do the point, just do the bypass. And I just said, you have no idea how much that costs. So everybody has an answer.
The southern.
Yeah.
No, they went the northern.
The northern.
The northern.
Sure. Let's do
Yeah.
Yeah, while we're at it.
Yeah, so.
Well, that's good. I mean, it's just, the key is that we've got a meeting set up, and
Yeah.
we'll hopefully
Thank you.
get into the details and respond to the question.
And the next thing is the Transportation Improvement District Partnership Opportunities.
Yeah, I think that was requested. County had asked that we, I think it's just, as you were just saying.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. We've done, I think all 3 of us actually have, learned about it and studied it to some extent. I don't know if all of you are familiar with it or not, but it's a relatively new concept. There are, I think, 33 counties in the state that have set up a transportation improvement district. They're also called TIDs. So if you're TID, that's what it is. And it has a lot of powers, that make them interesting and attractive. They can borrow money, and the money that's borrowed doesn't count against the jurisdiction's debt obligation, other than to the extent they've committed money to it. So if the TID borrows $5 million and Delaware City commits only the $1 million, and for however many years, that's what we count against Delaware City's debt obligation. They have much more, they have streamlined processes, so they can get things done faster. They can do contracting differently. They can save money because they're not paid prevailing wage. So they can, they can.
I thought, yeah.
Yeah. And there's a number of ways they can save money, make it faster, which in itself saves money because the contracting costs go up over time. Another thing which is interesting is that a TID has the power to require utilities to move their utilities. So that can at the utilities' expense. Which
We want that power.
yeah, which is an interesting power to have. So not that can move railroads. Probably something in there. But so anyway, it's an interesting idea. Chris is very much working on it. I know Mike and Bob. So we're definitely interested in moving forward. I think what it may serve is the ability for jurisdictions, multiple jurisdictions, to pool resources, streamline the process, pool resources on a project that has multiple jurisdictions involved. And whereas today everybody kind of says, well, you pay for that, no, you pay for that. Well, now, and it can be done over multiple years because you can borrow. So again, it's the contracting. I mean, there's some real nice advantages to it that we're actively pursuing.
Yeah, the traditional, to follow on that, the traditional use in Southwest Ohio is to collaborate municipalities and counties and jurisdictions where you have a corridor project that is touches many different to pull resources together. A less common use is as a development tool. And as you know, in our county and in the city development, we have the need to utilize that as a development tool as well, as we work with offsite road improvements from developments and things of that nature. So, and as Jeff had articulated, there's, that also has eminent domain powers, similar to, municipalities. So it's a very good tool, I think, that it is.
And I think the managing board is a board of 5 members appointed by the commissioners, because this is a county. There's only one version. There's all TIDs have to be countywide. So there would be 5 board members that obviously manage, the priorities and work with the jurisdictions to work together on projects. So.
Yeah, they've been successful. I know that Chris had mentioned a visit he had with his counterpart, and I can't remember the name of the county where they put one in place down in the Dayton area.
Yeah, Montgomery County.
Montgomery County.
Yeah,
it's been very successful.
Yeah, Butler and Claremont. Licking. I was talking to one of the commissioners from Licking. They love it.
Mm-hmm.
They've been really pleased. They're able to get things done so much faster and cheaper.
And that's where you take that regional look at a county level. It is a good vehicle, so we'd be happy to.
Yeah, we certainly want to
get a look at that. Yeah.
So would there be just one TID for the entire county, or do you?
Yeah, there's just one TID for the county, but you can have multiple projects with different participants.
Yeah.
Different priorities, different funding.
Good.
Yeah, and that helps with state funding as well. It shows that region is organized and all rowing in the same direction.
There is a pool of money, Chris told me this, there's a pool of money that the state sets aside. I don't know if it's ODOT, I'm sure it is.
It's like $4 to $5 million.
Yeah, $4 to $5 million a year that only TIDs can apply for.
Yeah.
And depending on how many people apply and what your projects are, you can get 100, 200, 300,000 out of that. So there's a special pool of money.
Chris and I went, it may have been Butler a couple of years ago, it was before IKEA opened, because we went to the IKEA down there to see what IKEA looked like. And we went from, not real sure about it. Even on the drive back, we had that conversation. And we've come a long ways in believing that there is an opportunity for this to work. We still have questions to get answers to. And I think we're trying to get those answers over the next couple, 3 months. It's something we're actively taking a look at that probably 18 months ago we were kind of looking at it, but we're much more serious about it now. If we can determine that it's beneficial to the development in this county, then I think there's a strong interest in moving forward on it.
That'd be good.
I can't think of a downside. I mean,
Well, those are kind of questions we want to make sure we get answers
Yeah,
to.
it is hard to think
So
of a
we
downside.
we don't believe there is, but still.
maybe reaching out to those other counties to make sure.
A lot of them sit idle. Of the 33, I would imagine 60 to 70% are not active, and it's the revenue streams, whether it's
Those are creative revenue.
it's either pledge revenue or service revenue. Like they'll take projects on for like a 2% fee or 3% fee, if they're multi-collaborative projects. So it's the revenue side is where, if they're not active, that's because there hasn't been a strategy put together.
And everybody's willingness to be a participant, not only with their, verbally, but also maybe having to put some money into the pot to make it work too. Those are questions that, what that looks like. Now, and when we looked at it down there, I mean, some of the small entities were putting in, small amounts of money, but they were creating a pot of money to do things. And they had a fairly limited target they were looking at. It really wasn't countywide in their case. It was a particular project that kind of served the interest of 3 or 4 entities. But we're giving it a hard look.
Well, good. We'll be happy to look at it with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Well, this was on the last 3 years ago, when 2.5 years ago, when the county was updating their plan, we were updating ours. Since then, our utility director, Brad Standis, retired, and Blake Jordan, I'd like to introduce, he's our new utilities director. Worked for the county for about 5 years. 5 years. And what he's passing out is, he and Mike had talked about this item. This is really just to give the commissioners and city council, just kind of refresh everyone's collective memory about some agreements that the city and county entered into back in the early 2000s. And as growth and development continues to put pressure on the county and the city, these types of utility agreements are important to review and just provide information. So Blake, if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me start by prefacing with, I did work for the county for 5 years in the county sewer before Mike Fromer himself stole me away from the county. To come down.
Oh.
It's a very sick.
Yeah.
Small group.
So you'll see there's lines all the way around the city, but all the previous agreements and discussions between the city and county are really focused on the southern half of the city. There's lots going on down there. And while we have the same blue boundary lines up north, we haven't really gotten into the heavy discussions between our 2 entities regarding them. Mike and I have talked about our need to open up these conversations and get started with the planning on the northern half. So I think those are the next steps between city and county. And the minutia of setting these boundary lines up north and deciding who's going to service where and how we're going to take those next steps into the future. Anything you'd like to add, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, with the, current agreement, I think, was dated like 2008, 2009 timeframe. And so we've got some nice 10-year history behind that agreement. And, I was always amazed when I first looked at it that it was so short. It was like 2 pages, which, those agreements can be turned into 10, 15-page agreements very quickly. But I think that there's been some success with the southern parts, and with the recent MORPC request to look at service areas, it made me kind of dig back into the files, and I think there was a lot of correspondence between the county and the cities at the time, and it was over the annexation and very similar throughout the state at the time. So I think that with your master plan being complete, ours being complete, now's a great time to look at that northern part. And I think that we have a good blueprint. So I think we just need to have a couple, I think the MORPC folks would, if we had came in and had these worked out, I think that they would be great to see that collaboration, because that's what they were pushing for the last time, and it's happened, and I think it'll be the same as well.
And I don't think our 2 departments have ever been as well poised to work together as they are right now with who they have there and who we have on our side. Long history of working well with people over there.
The other thing that's occurring here, I'll put our planning director, Dave Eflin, on the spot because I know he's prepared to just talk generally about our comprehensive plan. So our comprehensive plan is being updated, and a lot of the discussion is how big does the city become? And we've always defined our growth boundaries essentially by our utility boundaries. So that will, Dave, if you want to just provide a 60-second update on the comp plan update, how this
I'm
ties
not
in.
sure I can elaborate too much more on it than that, other than I'm sitting here perusing the 1964 comprehensive plan for the city, and it's interesting how past is prologue sometimes. Interesting. In any case, yeah, we're updating our comprehensive plan. We've contracted with a consultant team, national consultant team led by Planning Next out of Columbus and Jamie Green and his folks, McBride, Dale Clarion out of Cincinnati, and then a couple of sub-consultants to help us with some analytical work of the plan as well. So we're excited. We had at our recent council retreat really the first more public start of that, with the consultant being able to sort of introduce the plan for the plan to city council and receive some feedback from them. So shortly we will be organizing steering committees and going out to the public in a big, robust, and comprehensive way, which obviously includes the county, and go through probably a 12 to 18 month process of updating our plan. So it's timely. But yes, we have kind of always considered the sewer boundaries to be the ultimate boundary of the city, potentially. And that's up for discussion during our comprehensive plan process. Certainly the northern area, as Blake and Mike described it, it's just sort of an area that hasn't been particularly ripe for development up to this point, but certainly it's, it's a good time to start talking about it.
The other project that has brought to light the agreement with the city and county is the Riverby project. This is the development that was built outside the city limits back in the 80s with a package plant on the Olentangy, and that plant has reached its useful life, and they've been ordered to either take it off, upgrade it, or take it offline. And if they take it offline, they have to join the public sewer system. The irony was, at the time that project was proposed, the city opposed the permit because they said someday they're going to be wanting to tie into the public system. So 30 years later, that day has come. So we'll be working. There might be some county involvement in that, but it's principally the agreement says the city will serve that, but they will not be required to annex, because there are some areas carved out, Blake, that are really kind of in the southeast area there.
Yeah.
So if you hear from Riverby residents, and you may have already heard from Riverby residents about the county needs to do something, there is an agreement that speaks specifically to that area that we would serve it. And that's what we're trying to work through right now, is the cost to serve it, the assessment, and that's what we're working on right now. So hopefully that project, it's in our CIP, it's slated to hopefully get done, started this year, but the HOA of the Riverby has to agree to it, and so it's going to be a contract. Blake, did you want to mention add anything to that?
No, I don't.
I know Mike, you have been.
Yeah, from a county standpoint, we get the question. We're township county residents, and we've become good at reading the paragraphs of our agreement with you that outline what happens in the area. And like I said, the way the annexation clause was written, I think is very fair. And I was thinking that maybe from that experience, maybe if we update the agreement for the northern half, maybe there is something we want to put in for the southern. If you're if it's a surcharge or something like that, just spell some of that stuff out, in the agreement, maybe to clarify. Because like I said, it's been very handy to give that to them and say, okay, this is the, but if we could add a little bit more clarity, I think it'd be good.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Yeah, it's a good idea. So that's why that was on the agenda. And that was on the last time that we've made progress since then. So Thanks.
And then I think item 6 is something you added. The corridor 3637 and I-71.
We brought Bob with us too. I think Tom said it, Bob and Sean.
Just as a matter, just a little bit of preface, I do think just to celebrate the milestone agreement that the county reached this Monday and the city council reached Monday night.
Oh,
Right.
For the
Yeah.
entrepreneurial center, I think that's unprecedented. And really looking forward to that collaboration with the
Exciting.
university and the county.
Yeah, that'd be a real strategic partnership for the whole region. So very, very good to have that done.
So we want,
Congratulations to everybody working on it.
so we want maybe Bob just to take the lead and
Sure,
talking
yeah,
about
absolutely, yeah.
the project.
So several months ago, the commissioners authorized the Economic Development Department to go forward with looking at 3637 corridor study. With the great work that Mike's team did on putting together the sewer master plan, we know that we're going to be going forward with sewer investments within this corridor. And we viewed it from a county level as let's work with our local partners to establish some guidelines that would help encourage commercial growth in the corridor. And so we're still going through this currently. Hopefully we'll be in a point in a month or two to be able to close it out, but we're right now going back to the communities, engaging them, engaging some of the landowners. But in front of you today is really where this concept stands in a very brief overview. On the second page, you'll see the general study area running really from the city of Delaware's eastern boundary to Sunbury's western boundary. On the next page, you'll see really the 4 major areas that we've broken this corridor down into: an employment district, an economic district, commercial district, and then what currently being referred to as Little Walnut Creek District. And these various districts are being looked at for a multitude of uses. If you turn the page, you'll see various colors on here. And the major colors to point out are the light pink being employment district areas where we hope to see large-scale employment occur. Yellow areas that we believe are more likely to develop as residential due to the topography of the land, wastewater issues, watershed concerns, as well as EPA regulations and Army Corps regulations. And then the darker pink area being more of your mixed-use office, medical, retail, multifamily type locations. Again, very high-level overview of it, but we've been working with NVBJ on this, and they've done a wonderful job of breaking the data down. And actually, if you turn to the next page, because of the system they use, you can see the percentages of these different uses per page, as well as the acres being proposed rolled into it. And so the hope is that with over 8,000 total acres within this area, shifting a decent portion of that to a commercial employment use. If you go back to the page, you can see those broken down there, approximately 40% being for conservation park use, 37 for employment commercial, and 23 for residential. Really hoping to be able to provide to the communities an economic base that'll help them provide services going forward, create jobs within the community that our residents hopefully be able to work at, so they can not only just live within the community, they can also work in the community. Currently at the county level, 80% of our workforce, which is approximately 100,000 people, goes south every day. So it's 80,000 cars that we put on the road in the same direction in the morning and in the evening. Our hope is that we can shift some of those numbers, reduce the overall traffic concerns, and just make Delaware County, as well as Delaware, better place to invest and grow your business. That's part of why I asked Sean to come up here, because thank you very much for the words on the Entrepreneurial Center. I think it really is a unique investment, something that will help us bring new jobs to the community. And I think Sean was absolutely the key factor in helping pull that together. He's been leading it for years, and I just want to say thank you for all the work that you did on that.
Bob, what do you think the next steps are? Do you have an advisory committee made up of, most of this obviously is all township. what kind of role will?
We have a working group at the county on this, currently going out to present it to the key property owners as well as the townships in the area. Met with the townships in an original round, walking through currently where this is at. We just received this a couple weeks ago, so going back out over the next 2 to 4 weeks to meet with everybody and gain more feedback and input from those key stakeholders to finalize the plan, hoping mid-April to end of April to be able to close out the plan, submit it to the commissioners for review and hopefully acceptance.
Because I know ODOT put together 5 years ago, at least, Bill, Dave, they had a quarter study really more focused on land, on curb cuts and things like that. How does that?
So we're using their study as well as the county engineer plans as base documents for this study. If you actually turn to the last page, there's a potential overview for how the corridor could look. We referenced there that the streetscape, street sections being provided do follow the county's engineer direction and the ODOT plan of 2010.
The ODOT's concern, is the traffic flow, when we've talked to them. And they were in the process of applying for some dollars through the state for what they call J turns, which to eliminate having traffic signals to stop, similar to what you see on 23. They want to do something different. And I'm pretty sure in the next year or so, they're going to be installing some of the first. Anyway. So I know that that's the moving of traffic and keeping it moving is a priority of theirs, and as they're looking at some techniques.
So where's the J turn on 23? Because all I see is light after light.
They're not. That's
Okay.
they
what am I
I'm sorry.
missing?
They wanted to do the J turns, which was different than what was
okay.
done.
Oh, okay.
I thought I was missing them
Yeah.
someplace.
No.
I stop at all those lights, I swear.
Yeah.
So if you were turning at, like I said, it's a very interesting, if you were on Dunham Road, if you guys know where that
Yeah.
light is there, to go into Delaware, you would actually turn right, go into the interior, do a J turn around, and then come back towards so you're not waiting at a light to, to stack them and then to turn left. So, like I said, I'm curious to see.
So basically getting in the median and making the turn.
Yep. So.
There's a lot of those in Michigan, don't we guys?
No, that's where Michigan is.
Yeah,
Where
because
I
we're all
think they
from
mentioned.
Michigan.
Yep, that's.
You have seen them?
Oh, yeah.
So are they great?
Don't remember ever calling them J turns, so,
Right.
Did you like them?
yeah. And Telegraph is full of
This will be helpful to inform our kind of planning process, because we obviously, our corporate limits go out to that, essentially the railroad bridge. And, in years past, we've had discussions with the townships about joint economic development areas in this particular area. So I would think that might be one tool that might at some point be talked about again. And, but it's good planning work. I like the corridor look, and that'll complement what we're doing with the Point project in terms of that being a gateway coming in. Let's see.
From a county perspective, we're seeing a ton of growth along that 71 corridor. We expect that to continue. The Shonstons have recently made key investments in that area nationwide as team up to the property that they own. So we're really excited about what can occur out there.
8,000 acres is it's a lot of acres. That's a huge area. But it's exciting that it's a good planning process. It starts with a plan.
Are you seeing much yet on Sawmill?
I think we're starting to see more and more
Yeah.
on the sawmill. The interest is definitely growing. I think it's tracking in the right direction. I get a lot of phone calls asking about the work that the city's doing within its area for preparing the land. So I think we're involved to see a lot of growth come late 2018, 2019. Like, development's always one of those things that it takes 2 to 3 years for it to really start to move forward on a site. And so I think last year we probably saw a lot of beginning steps in that direction, and I'm very hopeful that 2019, 2020, we'll see ground being broken.
I was going to ask, from the city's perspective, are you seeing any growth in the Sawmill area south of 42? Obviously, county was looking forward to that.
I mean, we're still seeing a lot of interest in the innovation corridor area at the very northern tip of Sawmill there. In fact, and thanks to council, Monday evening, we're essentially going to have our Signature 2 spec building 2/3 full. We actually have another potential industrial employer going in there, so it'll be completely full here probably by summer, which is very exciting to me because you know, spec buildings can go either way. If you don't build them right, you can sit there forever, or it can be taken very quickly. This one's been vacant for about a year now, and but now but we've been picky. We've been very picky about what we've been willing to work on to get into the building. We're looking at those high-paying jobs, higher than LMI and the county, those things, those jobs that can afford our cost of living, essentially. So, and that's what we're getting in this building. That's very exciting. It's a new day for the city in terms of economic development. So, working on a lot of site preparedness in that area. Probably heard about the Jags Motor Park concept that we pitched to the Jags family. That's a groundbreaking concept that you're seeing these cluster parks happening all over the country. Kansas was one of the states that really pushed them forward very early on in the early 2000s. We have one here in Central Ohio with the Health and Beauty Park in Albany. This is the Health and Beauty Park, but for the people who serve Jags, the vendors that Jags sells their products, you know, set up little R&D shops. It'll hopefully, if we get it done, if we get the Jags to move forward with us, it'll have a test track, things of those things that are beneficial to the folks who are doing that work in the park. But again, you know, these are 65 to 80% white collar jobs with a lower volume of production worker. Just what we need to turn those 80%. Our statistics are almost identical. Actually, we moved ours down 1% in the last year. Yeah, and us. We're 79% now. But you know, we still have what I consider to be too high a percentage of matriculation of employees. That's 16,000 workers for us leaving our city every day. And with that 16,000 goes dollars, right? Because when I get off of work in the afternoon and I need to buy a gallon of milk, where am I going to buy that gallon of milk? I'm probably going to buy it in the corner shop around my office, not necessarily where I live. So to make a more sustainable economy, the work that I think Bob and I are doing together really kind of changes that whole way that sustainability works in our local economy. And by the way, Bob and I talk daily. I think, you know, it feels like the offices next to each other. So that's a good place to be from a regional sense and approach. And obviously, we both have great relationships with the region itself as well as the state. So I think we're very well positioned as partners for the future.
I think there's a lot of initiatives, a lot of different tools that are available at the county local level that can come together and partner on. We can secure projects that I think in the past we may not have been able to run for.
So right now we seem to be having a lot of our industrial park, our businesses there expanding. Are you experiencing the same thing?
Throughout the county?
Yeah.
We've seen some significant reinvestment opportunities coming along. Along with that, a lot of existing buildings that have been underutilized for the past decade or so being looked at for new investment opportunities in those facilities, which is absolutely great because we have some great sites throughout the 23 corridor and other locations in the county that just haven't had that investment in the last decade.
Yeah, just this year, though, we've been scouted by 2 automotive R&D projects that we probably would not have had the opportunity to pitch for in the last 5 years. One was a 100-acre campus that, you know, it would have had, you know, upwards of 2,000 employees on it, doing, again, white collar R&D work. Most of the people wearing lab coats, not blue coats. So, you know, again, I think we're positioned. We really have to work more on site readiness, though. We need, you know, structural work to be done. We need partnership with the landowners. We need master developers to come in to help through a public-private partnership means to get that land really truly ready. Government can't do it on its own anymore, right? So we need those folks to come in and work with us.
I would reiterate everything you just said. I think one of the most important things for our county, the city to be focused on is site development. I think one of the things that we've done in the last few months that we've done in the past is joint letters of support on projects that have come in, and working also with the finance authority to issue those letters and get out the doors so that people know we can bring a variety of tools that in the past we weren't bringing to the table. I think the finance authority has really redeveloped itself over the last few years and positioned itself to be a major player within the county when it comes to attracting new investment opportunities. And I think they've shown their ability to do that, work on Tanger Outlet Mall with Westerville on their Renaissance Hotel, and bringing that type of tool to the city so that you can use it for those projects that you choose.
Do you want to take a second to speak about the finance authority and the role it's played and some of those things you just talked about?
It's a real valuable tool. It is. Like I said, finally getting to the point where it can really be used a lot.
Yeah, I know Finance Authority has been in front of you in the past to speak on. I do believe on March 19th, you're looking at having a meeting to go even more into that. I'm very excited about that. It is a quasi-public entity. The state allows you to establish these two for a variety of purposes. Where we have used it for a tool to help with economic development is with sales tax waiver as well as some bond arrangements over the past year or so. It basically reduced the investment costs for private individuals or corporations looking to do a project within your boundaries. That reduced cost helps you compete with other locations who are also going after that same project. We have been looking to use it on the commercial side as well as the multifamily side, limiting it not to retail overwhelmingly, but to encourage those white-collar jobs that Sean was previously mentioning, and really to get light industrial investment moving again in the county. We really think that's going to be the bedrock for a strong economic base for the community to rely upon going forward. The Finance Authority has really been open to working with communities, finding innovative ways to address various solutions that could be holding up a project. Very responsive, very engaged, and wanting to be just a good community partner overall.
Want to talk a little bit about what you're doing on business retention with Jenna?
Yeah,
It's a
absolutely.
big program.
Jenny Jackson is the economic development coordinator in my office. She's been working with Sean's team and others to launch our first comprehensive business retention program from a county level. In the past, we've not done a robust business retention program. We've engaged businesses, but not within a framework to determine data that will allow us to run analytics and really have a baseline of information going forward so that we can help identify red flag issues that could occur within companies. These would be issues that would cause them to close their door or make an investment somewhere else. Jen is really driving that effort. She's doing a great job of reaching out, engaging the business community, online surveys, in-person meetings, and collecting that data in partnership with Sean's team and others, but also with 2020. And so we can start looking at how do we compare with other communities, how are we positioned to address concerns that might be coming up 3, 4, 5 years, such as workforce issues, so that we know we're not just doing what we need to be doing today, but that we're positioning ourselves to be able to take care of future issues as well.
And Mayor, that goes back to your comment about you've seen a lot of businesses expanding. I think everybody wants to land a new business, but I think sometimes you forget the biggest job creation can be expansion of your existing.
80% of all new jobs in a community normally come from businesses in your community.
And I don't know if you want to take a second, it's not really city, county necessarily, but some things you're doing to streamline the process on development. I think that's extremely important. I know we have at least one trustee in the room today. You want to comment on that?
For the past 2 years, so we've been working on a Lean Six Sigma type program within the county offices. I think we've seen some great results with that. Even more recently, one of the things that we've done is enter into a contract to move forward with Superior on digitalizing our development process, review, tracking, updating, payments, all of those things, really just in a manner to make it easier for those seeking to do business or the residents seeking a permit or something within our community to be able to pursue that track Hopefully it will make it easier and faster for those individuals tying into the GIS system as well, so you can receive updates online. Just overall a simpler, easy to use process for both the residents and businesses within the community.
Is Superior the same firm you're using for your finance software as well?
That's correct.
Okay.
What I guess I would say is not only just internally, but externally, the commission is driving us to find better ways to serve the community overall and working with us to determine what are the right resources to do that. We're very fortunate to have that ability.
And if the townships all have somewhat the same parameters on how you streamline the process, it makes it a lot easier for a company coming to our county to pick the best place for them, wherever that be, out in the townships or in the city or wherever. And that benefits all of us.
Very good. Thank
Good
you.
update.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The master plan, county's facility master plan.
So
Yeah, I'd
we
like to
wanted
sit on
to
that.
bring you up to date. We did complete our facilities long-range master plan last year. And since we're mostly in the city, it's really relevant. Some of the big pieces you're aware of. I mean, obviously we're acquiring it, we're going to acquire the career center and consolidate operations, which again will make it easier for customers to, one-stop shop. We're going to pull people from a lot of the scattered buildings we have and move them out there. But we're going to, one of the things obviously with the new courthouse is the old courthouse is now empty. But we've started a renovation plan for that. We've started the architects working, and we hope to be in there in a year. And actually the commissioners are moving over there and our staff and so on. Economic development commissioners, HR,
Veterans.
veterans are going to be over there.
A few other.
Yeah, some smaller groups. So it'll be repurposed, it'll be open. You won't have to go through security in the back. It'll just be a completely renovated, nice building. And, thrilled we're able to save it and put it to a really good new use. We're going to the plan now is to knock down the building behind us, the old adult court services, and add parking, which will be nice for everybody. Thank you for the city.
Not a debt, was it a debt, Jeff, or not?
Well, they were
At one
talking
time,
deck, but I think we've backed away from
Yeah.
that.
Surface
I
lot.
could just see us
Just a
trying to get
surface
the
lot,
deck
yeah.
to the northwest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's that good.
Yeah, I don't think it's needed.
I don't think it's the right answer anyway. But, so we've got that, I think we're at 6 buildings scattered around the city. We're gonna vacate those, move those largely out to the new center, sell those buildings. So they're good buildings, they're good locations. They'll be repurposed, insurance
Put back in the
agencies,
tax roll.
attorneys, they'll be back on the tax roll. So that'll be good. So that's kind of it. I mean, it's
So
gonna be.
about how many employees are you moving out of the city?
We don't really know at this point.
We really haven't put a count to it, but,
Yeah.
county engineer,
Engineer.
environmental, most of the stuff is Channing.
Yeah.
And that is a very, very tired building.
Yeah.
And a few other related entities that really related to development in our county. The theory is get them all together.
Yeah. The sheriff's administrative office.
But the other side of that coin is the courthouse. We added a judge, the staff that goes with that judge. So those are all new jobs for the county, for the city.
And those 6 buildings that we'll vacate will be sold. They're good locations, good buildings. They'll be filled with lawyers or whomever, ends up buying this. So that'll be additional employment in the city.
Yeah, and the Taft Law Firm too, going in right by the courthouse. Yeah, very attractive for attorneys.
Yeah.
Around the new courthouse.
Yes.
Well, if we could interest you in annexing that property, we would. That campus itself would be a nice fit. Maybe a conversation for another day.
Dream time.
I'll pull up that agreement that we entered into at the Career Center back in the 60s to see what it said.
Well, but the courthouse, Sawmill Parkway, there's been a lot of good things done. Okay, so, but as Commissioner Benton stated, again, we're not ultimately the deciders of who buys those two houses. Get great law offices right across from the courthouse.
Sure.
So you would think there will be a strong interest in those once we get to the point of marketing them.
The office building that's a little north of the courthouse, west side of the street, they could sell that. That would be a really nice office building for the
Is there
school.
any discussion about the jail? Because that has as much
That's
historical
funny you should mention that.
flavor
I've
as,
asked John Melvin, I think, weekly, have you sold the old jail yet?
because I would imagine if you issued a request for proposals for its redevelopment,
Right.
tailored it to what your vision was, there might be some interest. That's
I think
a great
it's a
old
big
building. It's underutilized. I mean, the law library, I think, is still, is that,
Yeah, the law
will
library.
that
Move
move?
that into the courthouse.
That'll move. So that building will then be.
But it could move. It's
Could,
it's still there until, as long as we have a building, it'll stay there, but it could move.
Okay. Because that's it's just a.
Yeah, I think it'd be a neat wall.
There, this is a conversation we've had, and again, it's all hypothetical, but maybe with a little humor, we have talked about the logic of maybe putting that in the hands of someone else who can make better use of the building.
I think you could.
But it's all just idle conversation.
I've been pushing John, our facility manager, John Melvin, to list that sucker and see if we can sell it. I mean, we don't need it. And it could be put on the tax rolls and be a neat building.
Right. I mean,
And Commissioner Benton mentioned, but just so you're, the courthouse, the old courthouse, opening up the front of it, so you enter from the front, to me, that's returns the dignity to the courthouse. And that's a little thing, but in some respects, it's a big thing.
I know, we just closed our front door here and I'm still having fits about it. I don't like it.
So the parking then increases. You'll have more surface parking back there, so that's
Yes.
available then to the public, obviously, after 5.
Right, yeah.
That's great. And when will the 911 center move up state?
Well, the building we're in now, what we call the Commissioner's Building, will become a secure building entirely. And it'll be kind of the data center.
Oh,
You know, the IT will move in there,
Oh,
911, MA, EMS will,
okay.
management will all stay there. The whole building will be secure.
So when any of the dispatching, will that all still occur in the ground level?
Yeah, I think it moves
None
out
of that
of
moves out?
moves out of the basement. That's 911 you're talking about?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I think, I may be mistaken, but I thought they were moving up the floor, but regardless of same building.
Yeah.
Great.
And everything's hypothetical to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, just regarding the courthouse, that's a great investment. I know that we spent a lot of time, council did, in terms of that ultimate process with the Historic Preservation Commission, Dave and his team, and your architects and all of you. I mean, that's just it's a gorgeous building.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
beautiful
Oh, thank you.
You know, being on that top floor and looking out to the east,
It's
it's
beautiful.
incredible views, the glass.
Yes.
It really fits in nicely.
Well, and I happen to be on the facility committee, so I feel like I have some personal investment in it, but I thought an excellent job was done. All these commissioners, we're all involved in it. It matches Hayes building. It fits. It's not too big that it doesn't fit on that basis. And I had the opportunity to talk with the historical committee early in the process, and they had legitimate concerns, but I think we addressed them. And I think everyone would tell you they're pretty happy with the result. It felt like everybody kind of feel they're part of the bargain.
Great investment.
That's really it for the facility master plan update.
And when Mike and I were putting the agenda together, I think we both kind of talked about shared services. We already do some of this, obviously through the 911 center, some of the city and county agreement regarding utilities, economic development. There might be some other opportunities in the world of information technology, perhaps. I mean, we've had some very preliminary conversations with Steve Lewis about some of our needs, some of the services you provide to some of the townships from an IT standpoint. So it's okay. I'd like to explore some of that further with Mike and his staff. where those, what other opportunities there might be in that area.
Yeah, I think it's been very successful, I would even say, working with some of the townships and some of the other organizations, developmental disabilities, and we do facilities, we do HR, we do IT, for the fairgrounds for a number of townships, DD and so on. So I think that's working very well. We're very interested in exploring other ways we could work to do things more efficiently together.
Our goal is, this is a topic, in fact, I have a folder I carry around on this topic. The goal is when the county can play a role in providing a more efficient way of doing something in tandem, everybody has to play their part. The townships in our county, a lot of them have a limited financial ability to do things, or things that we can step in, I think, and help them with and create a win-win for everybody. And the same applies to the city. It could be something as simple as fueling vehicles. We have that location up on the north there, but once we get Career Center finished, we need to look at some options perhaps. So, and I think that's a brainstorming session basically, because you only know what you know and what somebody thinks of. So there could be some opportunities there, and I would encourage everybody to think about those and throw them out there.
You just made me think of one thing was, and I know the fire chief is here, he asked me to ask about the fire training center that's at the Career Center now. Is that still, will that remain? What's the plan? You guys yet have, has that been?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer.
First time I've heard that. Is that not part of the
John,
career?
did you want to?
Is that part of the Career Center curriculum?
Certainly, I know many township fire departments, the city fire departments utilize it. There's been a lot of work, I know, from the Delaware County Firefighters Association that put many of that, the equipment in there, but it's all on it. There's been now is the North Campus for the Career Center. So I know there's some questions of what may end up happening with that property, with those props that everybody regionally worked together, because we know it's not going to go down to the South Campus at this point. So I wasn't sure if that was part of the discussion.
First time I've heard of it.
Yeah.
It is not part of the discussion.
Yeah.
Exactly. Maybe what we'll do with the county fire chiefs, we'll have some discussions, so we can talk and see if we can come up with some conceptual comments and ideas and so forth.
And maybe it'd be helpful to get us out there and just see what you're talking about, because frankly, I knew nothing about this.
Yeah, I do remember seeing it in my tour. I do remember seeing it.
It sort of sits nice, nice in the back. I know there's been, many people that have volunteered and put a lot of time into that development. And I hate to see it, go by the wayside when many departments utilize it at, with no cost. And that's something that we would have to all figure out and work together to come up with a solution, make sure that, we have everybody working together to keep it up to date and provide for the needs for all of us.
Yeah, we're just getting, our focus has been on the facility side with the historic courthouse, but we were planning on in the next quarter getting an architect on board for the Career Center renovation. So,
Okay. Thank you.
Exciting.
And next thing we have is the memorandum of understanding regarding parking facility. We talked about
Yeah,
this.
what is that now and where is it?
I saw a version of that months.
Yeah, I
It
saw, yeah.
was, and then it got held up because of prior understandings with County Administrator Hansley and previous conversations. And so we ultimately know that the county's been very, very receptive to public parking in those lots. They're signed that way, and that makes a lot of sense. And I think people are starting to discover that they can, cross Central Avenue and find parking in those surface lots. The hang up was over the use of, for special events, the covered, the garage space. And we know that the county has some concerns. I can remember conversations with Mayor Riggle and Commissioner Merrill about the concerns with security and whatnot. And I think we understand that. But would it like it at some point, maybe to perhaps revisit that in the future if it's possible, just to see how the first,
Yeah, I think at this point, my perception is that's probably off the table, but let's give it a couple of years and see how things go. Get comfort level with security and that kind of thing, and maybe talk about it then. Really, what we need to do now is just clear up the original agreement that started with parking and safety over the parking spaces and
But not under the courthouse. you're talking
my
about.
suggestion would be that we take that off the table.
Yeah.
Well,
That
One
would
version
be my suggestion too, yeah.
One version I saw, I don't know if it's the first version, the last version, or a middle version, but the parking that was north of the commissioner's building, it was on there for being open for city parking. And my concern on that particular piece, just an example, that's where our 911 people park at night. So
Just
So-
where our spots are.
Oh,
Right
right.
there.
So I had asked if that be removed because, one, for safety,
Yeah.
close proximity to the building,
Yeah,
and, but that's the last conversation I've had on it. I have no idea what the document looks
Yeah,
like.
I don't recall that ever being part of
But it was on that one version.
I think there was discussion that the expanded lot that you spoke about earlier
That's the
would be
latest.
available.
after we knock down the house?
Yes, that surface lot
Yeah,
would be available. At one time, there was discussion about the parking right next to the courthouse, that was going to be available. And I know that's secure now with the gate. We understand that's off the table. But originally, that was some of our conversations about that.
But we've opened up a lot of parking spaces.
Oh, yeah, there's no,
Right,
yeah, and I think it's signed well, and I know you've encouraged the employees to park. I don't know where it was.
On the other side of Union Street.
On the other side of Union Street, but we just thought, again, just that at some point in the future, there might be a point where the county would consider that, but obviously that's not the case now. And we don't know if it would be necessary. We just thought if you had a major special event, you had thousands of people coming into town, would that be available? But we understand, I think, the concern. So I can work with Mike in just terms of updating it, because it's gone through a number of different versions. And so that's the council has to actually formally, I think, remove the space, not remove, the spaces have been removed on Sandusky for parking.
We never approved.
That never really came through,
It's supposed to be part of the agreement.
Right, and then, so anyway, there's been multiple versions of this thing.
Okay.
And I know, Commissioner Merrill, you had mentioned something about the area in between the two buildings, but I think we determined, David, that was, or Bill, that was still, that's not an alley. The roadway between the two buildings.
Paper out, it's going to take care of.
So we need to vacate that.
Yeah, and then formally establish the patterns for the alley, so that it can be enforced in terms of.
I think we still do this for that, right?
Yeah, we do. They're coming up off of Union, past the one-way sign, and then going into the garage. And even the sheriff departments are doing it. I mean, I would deputies, every day I watch it, I'm like, oh
yeah,
my
right
gosh.
there.
Yeah. Yeah, they just completely ignore that sign and just go right on up the hill into the garage. So, yeah.
Huh.
Rather
The
than go
sheriff.
around and-
But the memorandums have been not been signed, so it's not really a law yet. So there's just, we need to get this stuff. We
Okay.
can't enforce anything until we get the MOU done. So.
Yeah.
We'll circulate. Parking and Safety has a meeting, I think, in the next week, Monday. We can put that before then.
Get them by Monday,
Yeah.
Tom.
Get it before then.
Is this the version that you're going to be looking at? When it
That's
comes
the
down to
latest one.
10? Is this the one you're going to?
I have to look.
I'm going to give this back. I'd rather see the
Yeah.
last version.
I have one that
Yeah.
Farzan actually had signed, and then I held on it.
Wait till he comes out.
Yeah, first I'm signed and Tom didn't.
Okay, I'm going to make a copy for the two of them. and
Sure.
give it to them as well.
Or we can send it to you electronically, whatever.
Okay, either way.
Maybe before Monday, you just said that.
Oh.
The latest version.
Yeah, and I'll circulate it with making sure, because Bill had some comments on it, so.
I just want to make sure we're looking at the latest
Yeah.
version. If I look at an earlier version, it's just going to confuse everything.
Yeah.
Well, I would just like to thank you all for making the effort. I know we haven't met in a couple of years. I know 5-6 years ago, this meeting would have never happened. So I am just so thrilled that the county and the city work so well together.
Oh, I am Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm glad to be here.
Next one will be in the new or the historic courthouse when we're out.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sounds
Absolutely.
It won't be that long.
good.
Yeah.
Council, have any comments? No.
Any comments here? Any?
No, we covered a lot of ground. I appreciate your bringing us together, and it's hard sometimes when we don't step back, we all are so busy, but to take time to sit down and be able to talk to each other. Very productive. Thank you.
All I can say is we appreciate the opportunity, and I think we work well together. I think there's been a lot of things accomplished, and obviously our goal is to represent the county as a whole, and your interest, but I think there's more overlap than there is conflict, but we do have a different roles that we serve, but that's what makes it work. So.
All righty. We are adjourned at 8:10.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, take the
Yeah,
magnets,
take the
yeah.
magnets.
Make sure
I've already
you take
done
an
one.
umbrella when you go outside.
You're bringing it back?